Hello, this is Claus Jensen presenting the second video in my series on Aron Nimzowitsch. And again we shall see a game from a young Nimzowitsch. This game is from 1906 and Nimzo was aged 20 at this time. His opponent with the white pieces was the very strong Austrian master Rudolf Spielmann, who was a few years older than Nimzo and known for his wild play with a lot of sacks, and he played much fewer draws than his contemporaries. And Spielmann was known as the last knight of the King's Gambit, so to no surprise Spielmann opened 1 e4, Nimzo played e5, and here came f4, the King's Gambit, and Nimzo plays the Falkbeer counter gambit d5, e takes d5, and now Nimzo plays an extremely sharp line. He plays c6 here, hoping to seize the initiative from Spielmann immediately. And possible lines here after this c6 is to take on c6, then knight takes bishop b5, e takes f4. Something like this was in fact played by a young Nigel Short in 1986. And also possible is knight c3 here from white, e takes f4, knight f3, bishop d6, d4, knight f6 was actually played in none against an aunt in 1995. But let's go back to 1906 instead, and here Rudolf Spielmann played the strange-looking queen f3. Nimzowitsch took on f4, and with d takes c6, I think we can say that Spielmann makes some strange choices in the opening. Knight takes c6, bishop b5, knight f6, d4, bishop d7, knight e2, queen b6, and queen d3, bishop d6, and Nimzowitsch with the black pieces here already enjoys a lead in development. And remember, he has not given a pawn for it, because Spielmann hasn't grabbed this pawn. So Spielmann's opening play has been dubious. In particular, the queen moves were strange, I think. Now he plays c4, again ignoring development, but at least there's a nasty threat here, c5. And how should Nimzowitsch address this threat? Well, he simply continues development. He simply castled here. And he was hoping perhaps for c5 immediately, then bishop takes, d takes, queen takes, and with 2 pawns for the bishop and white cannot castle, this should be excellent compensation for black. For example, bishop takes f4 here, then knight b4 is a threat, and black is winning. But Spielmann didn't play c5. He took on c6 first, and now Nimzowitsch could have avoided the piece sack by playing queen takes c6, castles, and g5. But Nimzowitsch was not afraid of this piece sack, so he played bishop takes c6, and now the safer option for Spielmann was definitely to castle here. But still, after rook a d8, knight c3, bishop e5, black has some nice pressure on the center with his pieces, and this is in fact a hyper-modern idea that Nimzowitsch was also talking about in his works. But Spielmann didn't choose the safe option of castling. He played c5. So Nimzowitsch has sacked a piece now because he has to take here, and after bishop takes f4, Nimzo has only 1 pawn for the bishop. And the question is if Spielmann can survive this risky play, and the answer is no, because in fact black is already clearly better, because white's king is very exposed and black is ahead in development, especially because his rooks come to the open files with tempo. So rook f to e8 here. Now the one of the threats is bishop b5, knight c3, and now the strongest move in this position, I believe, is rook a d8 immediately. And now the queen has to go, and if it goes to h3, then there's knight d5 with all kinds of threats. Bishop on f4 is on prise, and the black knight could also go to b4 or exchange on c3. And bishop b5 is also a threat. And if, for example, rook f1 here, then knight takes c3, queen takes, bishop b5. Rook can try to protect the knight, but then there would be a very nice checkmate. That was just a sample line, and Another possibility could be bishop g3 here, but then knight takes c3, b takes, queen takes is also winning for black. So there were many lines here after queen h3, and he could also play queen g3 here. Then bishop b5 is strong, because knight takes, then rook takes e2, and after queen takes b5, there's a decisive attack on the exposed white king. So a lot of possibilities after rook a d8, but instead Nimzowitsch took the pawn on g2, and then Spielmann castled queenside. Nimzowitsch grabbed the rook, and then played rook a to d8. And here, the best defense for Spielmann probably was queen f3, but still after b5, a3 and a5, black has a very dangerous initiative, and the knight on c3 is in all kinds of trouble. And if he tries king b1 here, then still b4, knight back to a2 for example, then b takes a3, and if b takes, then queen b5 check, and the knight on e2 is hanging, and if queen takes, then simply queen takes, b takes, and rook takes e2, winning a piece. So even after queen f3, Spielmann would be in trouble, and I think it's logical that he tries queen c2 to unpin the knight on c3, and but now comes knight d5, and now comes this strong knight, which is one of the signatures in many of Nimzowicz's games through all of his career. He was able to see all possibilities of this piece, and this game being no exception. And note here that knight takes d5 doesn't work because of the queen exchange here, and then rook takes e2, and now the knight on d5 is in trouble, and if white tries to save it with king c4, then comes rook e4 check, and black wins the knight anyway. So instead of exchanging the knight, Spielmann played in this position bishop d2, and then came knight b4, attacking the queen, has to go back, and then comes a knight check, and then comes a knight fork. So now we see how effective this knight was in this position, and this knight fork ends the game as Spielmann resigned here. And I hope you enjoyed this nice performance from Nimzowitsch, although Spielmann's opening play wasn't very well. And I'm looking forward to do more videos on Nimzowitsch games, and I hope you are looking forward to them too. Meanwhile, you could visit my chess website at klausjensen.com. Bye bye for now.